morning. Welcome back to our discussions about ethical aspects of research. This is our third lecture in this series. And in this lecture, we are going to talk about the procedures to obtain clearance from respective ethics committees, including filling up of the consent forms and information sheets. Our learning objectives of this lecture are getting acquainted with the standard procedure to obtain clearance from ethics committee, designing and filling consent forms, and composing information sheets and using them in research. Let us begin talking about these aspects of ethics in research. So what are the procedures to obtain ethical clearance? An application about the ethical reviewing of the research proposal is initially to be submitted to the Ethics Committee office, and this has to be submitted well in advance of expected initiation of the study. The reason is that Ethics Committee usually meets only twice in a year, unless some expedited review is needed for a research proposal. It usually takes a lot of time to meet. The application which is submitted for the ethical clearance to the EC should have a clear mention about the type of review requested, and this should have sufficient reasons for the request. For example, if we are requesting for a sort of expedited review, the application should have enough reasons to say that why do we ask for an expedited review. The example is that some researchers may have a great urgency to be conducted immediately. The example is the clinical trial which are needed currently on the ongoing pandemic of COVID-19. These researchers may require a sort of expedited review because they won't be waiting for the routine ethics committee meeting to be held. So this kind of thing can be taken for the expedited review. The application which is submitted to the EC may have attached hard copies of the research proposal in sufficient number. Usually the ethics committee usually explains that how many copies are required to be submitted along with the application, and this usually reflects the number of the EC members, because as many as the this EC members are there in the committee, they would be requiring that many hard copies of the research proposal. EC may also ask for submission of a soft copy of the proposal. So if it is being asked for, that also has to be submitted along with the application. Now, while applying to the EC for a review, ethical review, this is highly important to mention in the application if it is a fresh or a revised research proposal. The reason is that if it is a fresh proposal, it would be reviewed extensively and thoroughly, and it is going to take much of the time. Whereas if it is a revision or revised submission, it will take very less time, because it would be, and this time the review committee would be discussing only on the issues which have been asked for the revision during the previous review. So a clear mention of this may save much time in reviewing process. What are the submission formats for various reviews? Most of the ethics committees have developed their own standard operating procedures to conduct review process. There may be different set of information sought for different reviews. Ethics committee needs to be updated about ongoing developments related to a research project. And fundamentally, a researcher and ethics committee, see, it's a long time relationship between a researcher and ethics committee. Because fundamentally, a researcher and ethics committee may have many encounters through the course of the research from its initiation or inception till its completion. Many times, you would be having an opportunity to meet with the ethics committee members. And many ethics committees have developed specific application formats with different set of information required for different reviews. So what are these various forms and applications used in ethics committee review? All such applications essentially contain basic information. What all kind of review you are requesting from the ethics committee. Most of such applications would essentially require certain basic information, research related information, participant related information, and some other relevant information which is pertaining to the specific research proposal which is being submitted. So the common application formats are the application for the initial review. It could be for the primary review or the initial review, or it could be for the expedited review. It could be for the exemption from the review. I mean, you feel that your proposed research do not involve any human or animal ethics related issue. In that case, you can request for or you can apply for an exemption from review, but that decision also again has to be taken from the ethics committee itself. You can apply for an ongoing review. You can apply for submission of amendments if there are any specific amendments made in the protocol which was previously approved by the ethics committee. There can also be a form which intimates about the protocol violation or deviation to the ethics committee. If there are any kind of adversities happening during the clinical trial, those adversities are to be informed to the ethics committee. So there are adverse event reporting forms. And in any case, if the research proposal is being terminated prematurely or is suspended because of some reason or is being discontinued because of some reason, that also has to be reported to the ethics committee. If it was completed well in time, this again has to be reported to the ethics committee. Now the process of reviewing. The review usually is being done through a physical meeting of the ethics committee members comprising of a quorum to approve a decision. There can't be an easy decision through circulation of proposals among members. It has to be a kind of physical meeting of EC members which are comprising a quorum. The meeting agenda along with the proposals may have initially been internally circulated among the members well before the actual meeting so that they can come prepared, they can read the proposals well, and they can come with their views on the research proposals which are going to be discussed during the meeting. The PIs or the co-PIs may be invited to present their research proposals before the ethics committee if the ethics committee feels like that a kind of personal presentation by PI or co-PI is essential to explain certain specific areas which are pertaining to the ethics related to the human or animal participation. However, the review can also be done on the basis of submitted research proposal distributed among all members, and the real physical presence of PI or co-PI may not really be essential. Arriving at a decision. Now, while the process of the review of the proposals is on, after a thorough review of the proposal concerning all aspects related to safeguarding the research participants and risk-benefit assessment, the committee may accord its decision of either rejection or a need of revision or a need of approval or approval. The first two decisions need a comprehensive detailing about the reasons which have led to this decision. If the committee is rejecting a proposal or if committee is asking for a revision in the proposal, the decision letter should contain the explanation about why they have reached to this decision. The approved proposals may also be informed about getting a reapproval from EC in case of any change in the protocol. The EC also has to be informed about any premature termination of the study, adversity in completion of the study. All decisions of ethics committee are given to the concerned people in the form of a letter signed by its chairman or member secretary. In case of a revision, the letter usually contains the time in which a revision may be submitted to the ethics committee. This saves a lot of time while submitting the revisions. Now, one very important aspect of the ethical review is informed consent document, which has to be submitted with the research proposal. An ethics committee very carefully reviews this informed consent document, which is submitted along with the research proposal. So what is this ICD, or informed consent document? This voluntary written informed consent should be obtained in the form of an informed consent document from each participant to protect their freedom of choice. I mean, if they are willing to participate in the research proposal or not, they should have been given a complete freedom of their choice. So informed consent involves three interrelated components. These three interrelated components are: one is the relevant information. This informed consent process, or the informed consent, involves the information. The first thing is the information. So this information has to be the relevant information to potential participant, and it should compose of a comprehensive document having the details of research meaningful to the participant in a very plain or simple language, so that the patients or the participants can understand it. Second is the comprehensibility of the information. The information should not only be very pertinent to the research proposal, but it should also be comprehensible. So the researcher has to ensure its readability by making it in the regional language also. It is not that you are making a research consent document or informed consent document in English language, and you are asking the people or the potential participant who are not comprehensible to the English language or who are not well versed with the English language. So that doesn't make any sense to the research participants. So the second aspect of the informed consent document is its comprehensibility. And third is the voluntariness of the participation. This means that while taking the informed consent, you are allowing the participant to read the information given in the informed consent document well, and they are allowed to consult with their family or friends before they are actually signing it. That means when they are signing, they are completely sure about what is written in that document, and they feel comfortable with all the information which is available in those documents. This gives us kind of voluntariness of the participation. This is a simple depiction that how a simple language is meaningful while taking an informed consent. The gentleman is being asked to sign on the informed consent form, saying that I absolutely understand this right now. Whereas when you see the information which is available over there in the this consent form, it's completely incomprehensible. So it should not be the case. What are the characteristics of an ICD? The number of elements which are essentially to be included in this informed consent document. The main components of this informed consent document are: number one is the statement mentioning that it is a research. You need to mention it in the information related with the informed consent document, that it is a research. You need to mention about the purpose and method of this research. You need to mention about the duration, frequency, and methods. You need to mention about benefits to the participant, community, or others. You need to mention about foreseeable risk, discomfort, or inconvenience, if at all it is possible, through the interventions which you are proposing on the participants. Confidentiality of the records, payment, reimbursement for participation, if any kind of reimbursement is possible to be given to the participants. Treatment and or compensation for injury, if at all it occurs during the trial. Freedom to participate or freedom to withdraw at any point of time during the trial. an identity of research team and contact person. This is also very, very important that every research participant should be given the contact details of the research team and should be given the details of the contact of the immediate contact person in case if any problem arises during the trial. Now, this is also one very, very important thing to understand, that ethics committee approval of the informed consent document is essential. Because, why it is essential? Because there are a number of templates of consent forms which are available over the net. What happens, many times it happens that the researchers utilize those templates which are already available over the net rather than, or instead of preparing their own consent forms which is relevant to their own research. So the reason of EC approval of ICD is that your informed consent document should be relevant to the kind of research proposal you are submitting. And ethics committee, while making a review of whole of the research proposal, also reviews the kind of informed consent document which is going to be proposed for the taking of the consent from the patient. And ethics committee ensures that it contains, this informed consent document contains all kind of information which is relevant for a participant for giving his consent or disconsent for participating in this particular research proposal. Mind it that use of an unauthorized or unapproved consent form may invite legal consequences in case of an adversity or an unforeseen eventuality. If somehow it happens that during the research trial some eventuality happens, and if the consent form which has been signed by the research participant was not approved by the ethics committee, the researcher may face some kind of legal consequences. So that's why the ICD is needed to be approved by the ethics committee. Informed consent should be free and voluntary and be signed by the participant after receiving information, understanding it and discussing it with family, friends or anyone to whom he trusts upon if it is needed, or any query if raised by the participant should be met with adequate and befitting reply. Signing the consent form is not abiding. Everyone has to understand it, that mere signing over a consent form doesn't really abide the participant to participate in this study. It should be made clear to everyone, to every participant, that they enjoy, despite of their signing on the informed consent form, they enjoy the freedom of withdrawing them from the research at any point of time. In case of minors and dependables having reduced autonomy, we need to understand that consent has to be given by their legally authorized representatives. You need to identify that who are their legally authorized representatives who are having an authority to sign the consent form on behalf of the minors or the dependables. Who can take the consent? This is also a very, very tricky question and very interesting question. Research, you know that research is usually comprising a big team composed of large number of the people. They can be the investigator, the principal investigator, the co-investigators, or number of other people who are participating in the research. So who is the best person who is supposed to take the consent from the participant? There are certain conditions. The one who knows well the whole research protocol may be the right person to take the consent because he knows that what is going to happen in this research. The one who is comfortable with local as well as the national language or the English language may be the right person to take the consent, because if at all it is needed to be explained the things which are written in the informed consent form to the participants in the local language, this person can explain these things in the local language. The one who is able to reply to the queries raised by the prospective participant. I mean, you need to understand well that what kind of queries are being raised by the people who are the prospective participant and how to respond to these queries. This person may be the right person to take the informed consent. And the one who is non-influential, this is one very, very important component of the prospectivity of the person who is going to take the consent. The one who is non-influential in the consent process. So the person who is having an influence upon the potential participant may not be the most suitable person to take the consent, because his presence would be influential to the participant for giving him a consent. So the person who is non-influential should be involved in taking the consent process. So what exactly is the informed consent process? It composes of three words basically. One is informed, other is consent, and third is the process. Informed means you need to inform the patient well. You need to give the full knowledge and understanding about what you are going to do within your research proposal or the protocol. The consent is the decision of the prospective participant, the voluntary decision of the prospective participant to accept or to give permission to have their participation in the research. And the process says that it's a continuous and ongoing consent. It is not a one-time consent that today I am giving the consent, tomorrow I am not going to give the consent. Once I am giving the consent, it is implied that it gives a kind of continuous or ongoing consent till the research is completed.